twice in the same year. I have to tell you, Dr. Jamil, you beat the record. We have had some presenters back, but not twice in the same year. So it's definitely the true record for the power of passive investing, but backed by popular demand. What can I say? I'm gonna go briefly through our typical meetup. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so as usual, Power of Passive Investing Meetup. This is the presentation for tonight. I'm not gonna read Dr. Jamil's biography in the interest of time, but he will say in a few words, but most people here know him as he was here earlier this year. Typical disclaimer, this is for educational purposes only. We're not selling any securities here. For anything specific, please consult your hired professional. The housekeeping is keep yourself on mute. We will allow some time at the end. If the presentation happened to run for longer time, then Dr. Jamil has graciously agreed to provide his contact to ask questions offline afterwards. Our next event is on June 23rd, and the presenter is Emma Powell. She's going to talk how to identify and recover from investing scams. She has personally gone through some and knows a few people that have gone through scams, so she's going to speak about the personal experience. After that, we have Ryan going through the Michael Blank's underwriting analyzer. So for those that want to sharpen their skills or want to learn how to underwrite multifamily, Ryan is going to take us through that in July. And this is, as usual, my contact information. You know how to reach me, so I'm not going to read that. Let me stop sharing. Dr. Jamil, please take the stage. Welcome back, and we're really thrilled to have you back.
Thank you so much, Alina. I appreciate it very, very much. I want to first, before we jump in, just take a moment to thank everyone responsible for putting this together. I know I've been in contact with Alina and Raphael and anyone else who I haven't been in contact with. Thank you all so much, because we wouldn't be here without you. So if we could just have a round of applause for them. Awesome. And then I believe almost everyone has their camera on. I have a request that if you're able to, please join us on video. There's two reasons for that. The first reason, you will get more out of this if you make yourself known. You will get more out of this if you're seen and if you're present. And the second reason is a lot more fun for me to see your beautiful face than it is for me to talk to a name. And so if you're willing to come on camera, I would very much appreciate it. And if you can't, I understand that as well. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see this? Wonderful. Okay, so as Alina mentioned, today's presentation is called 10 Principles to Get the Most Out of Yourself and Perform at the Highest Levels. I've been very blessed over the years to work with leaders and high performers from around the world, all different walks of life, many of them in the real estate space, from brokers to investors to agents to loan officers. And what I have found that they all have in common is they've chosen to be leaders and high performers. And what I want to point out there is the word chosen. Sometimes people think it's something you're born with. They think you either have it or you don't. But what I'd like to share is it's something that you choose to step into. And when I think about a leader, I think about somebody who wants to make it less about me and more about we. Somebody who's thinking, it's not just me, it's my family, it's my company, it's my community. Maybe the size of the vision is really big, it's my country, it's the world. But they want to make a difference, they want to make an impact. And when I think about a high performer, I think about somebody who, no matter what they're doing, they want to do and be the best they can at it, because they see it as a reflection of themselves. And because it's what they're passionate about, it's because they want to be the best that they can be at, they go all into it and recognize that is a choice. In every area of your life, everyone here is already a leader and a high performer in many different respects. And I can promise you there's probably an area where you could step up your game. There's probably an area, maybe as a parent, maybe as a spouse, maybe as a team leader, maybe as a friend, any of the role as a son or daughter, any of the roles that you fill throughout the presentation, let it kind of sit in the back of your mind. Where can I raise my standard? Where can I show up at a more powerful level? And I think just coming from that place, makes such a difference in the world. Today, I'm going to share with you some tools, some strategies, and more importantly, in my mind, some ways of being that my clients have applied to really get the most out of themselves, and like the title suggests, and perform at the highest levels. I'm going to do my best to keep to the time. And if for whatever reason we get to the end and there's not time for Q&A, I'll share my Zoom link in the chat and I'll jump right over there. And if anyone has questions and they'd like to do that in person, face to face, I'm more than happy to go over time there. Okay, so a couple of guidelines for today to get the most out of today. First and foremost, I have found so much value personally and in my clients and other people that I've spoken with at different events. Take notes, pen and paper. It increases your retention and your learning. And if you can review it within a day or two, even more. And if you want to take it a step further and really go for the A+ superstar student status, that's when you teach it to other people. When you pay attention from a space of I want to teach this, you learn it far better. And so that's the first side of it. The second is remain open-minded. Some things here you've heard, some things here you haven't. Some things might challenge things you believe. And if you're open to it, there's magic that can be found here for you. And so there's that Bruce Lee expression, if I paraphrase it, take what's useful and discard what's not. If you get one thing out of today, it was well worth the time. Number 3 is play all out. Give 100% of you to the experience, be here fully. And again, my strong recommendation is remove distractions. If you've got an email right now opened up that's going to be binging you every 10 seconds, that's not doing you a favor. If you've got your cell phone that's going to be buzzing every few seconds, again, that's not doing you a favor. It's going to make you less present and you might miss what's here for you. And then at the end, please ask any questions you have. I'll do my best to answer them. And if we have to use the other Zoom again, that's available to you as well. So as we dive into today, the first perspective, oh wait, no, I missed a slide. All right, so there we go. So real quick of why I'm here today. First, I'd love to give you all a powerful experience of the heart and soul of what I do with the leaders and high performers that I coach. Second, I want to provide massive value to you, have fun with you all, and make this a really great experience. There's no sales pitch. I've been at plenty of events where the speaker goes for 30, 40, 60 minutes, whatever it is, and the whole time it's buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. And I don't know about you, but I don't like that. And so I don't ever want to do that to you all. And so the way my business works, I love partnering with people to transform their life, make their dreams come true, and create more fun, freedom, and fulfillment. That's what I live for. And I know that the people who resonate with me, they'll reach out, we have a conversation, and if it's a good fit, it's a good fit. And so at the end, I'll just put my contact info in the chat if that resonates with you. And so let's get started. So as we jump into today, I mentioned there's 10 pillars. The first is perspective. I have here that life can change in an instant. I'm sure many of us can look back at our lives and imagine whether it's people that were in our lives and maybe aren't anymore, maybe it's situations that changed really rapidly, or whatever the case may be. We can all see areas in our life where this was so accurate. Life was going one way and then it completely turned on its head. And I'm gonna share a personal story with you all right now. And I'd like you to listen to it from the place of as if it applies to you, because I do believe it does. There are lessons here that have completely changed my life. And I've had people tell me that just from this story, it's done the same for them. And so please listen from that space. Okay, so when I was 19 years old, my father had a brain aneurysm. And for anyone who's not familiar with what that is, think of a tube in the brain, blood vessel, and it starts to balloon out. And if you're fortunate, you have a really bad headache, and then you go to the hospital, you get it taken care of, and hopefully you're good to go. My dad wasn't as fortunate, and his aneurysm ruptured. Fast forward us in the hospital, 4-hour brain surgery, and we were told by the neurosurgeon it was the worst aneurysm he'd ever seen. His chances of survival were less than 5%. And if he did survive, he'd probably never wake up. And there we were for 4 hours, and those 4 hours felt like an eternity. And after the 4 hours, he survived, and we went into the room for the post-op room, and we got to see him, and he was in a coma. And I'd never seen somebody that vulnerable. It looked like a train hit him. And in that moment, there were these two emotional states that I was bouncing back and forth between. The first was this sense of helplessness. I wanted, other than prayer, I couldn't do anything. I wanted to be there for him. I wanted to do something to improve his odds, because we were told he's in a critical space and he could die at any moment. And there I was, I can't do anything. I'm just waiting. And then the second emotion was this immense sense of regret. I had felt in that moment, or the realization that I'd taken my relationship with my dad for granted. You know, there's this expression, the problem is you think you have time. And the Dalai Lama says most people live as if they're never going to die, and then they die having never really lived. And there I was in that moment, reminded or seeing in the moment, I'm 19, my dad's 49. And I thought, oh, you know, I've got 30, 40, 50 more years with him. I didn't think the Sunday that it happened, today's the day. You know, I didn't think about it like that. And here in this moment, I realized I don't really know my dad as well as I would like to. I didn't spend the time with him that I would have liked to. And now it seems like I'm going to miss that chance. It seems like I'm not going to have that opportunity because I'm thinking I have time. These people are always going to be here. And I think that many of us fall into that. We live from this unconscious space, not because we're bad people, nothing malicious about it. We're just focused on other things. And that's not where our perspective is. And so my dad did survive another 3 years, and it was a miracle. You know, in those 3 years, we helped him make almost a full recovery. And there were moments of absolute bliss and gratitude. And there were also moments of frustration, anger. You know, as a primary caregiver, I took 2 years off after college to take care of him before he passed. And anyone who's done that knows it drains you physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, when someone's completely dependent on you and that you can't leave their side. And so in those 3 years, I had some of my highest highs. We spent 10, 15 hours a day together. I got to know him. Everything I wanted, I got. And on the flip side, because of his aneurysm, he was prone to seizures. He had short-term memory loss. And at one point, he forgot who I was. And I was arguing with him that I wasn't his nephew. And it felt as if like the ground beneath me, you know, gave out. But overall, in those 3 years, I started to really see the value of this moment, the miracle that is life, the miracle that is today. You know, every single day, 150,000 people don't wake up. And every one of you here listening weren't one of those people. And you've got people in your life that you really love and care about. They woke up too. And from that perspective, from my perspective, you hit the lotto right from the get-go. You woke up and it's already an extraordinary day. And many of us, unfortunately, come from this perspective that we take that for granted. That's the given. There's nothing special about that. And it's something extraordinary, out of the ordinary, has to happen in order for me to feel happy, in order for me to feel like it was a good day. And you're free to do that. But notice that that would dramatically limit the amount of magic and miracle that you can experience in your felt experience on a day-to-day basis. And so after those 3 years, my dad did pass away. And I remember being at his wake. It was a 5-hour wake and over 7,000 people came. My dad was a primary care physician, and he was also one of the top 3 Elvis impersonators in the world. You know, music was his life, his passion. He was a drummer as well. And he had a lot of people that loved him. And I remember standing next to his casket for 5 hours. I shook every single person's hand, and almost everyone said, "Your dad saved my life." And I felt so humbled by that, see the impact that he had on all of these people. And I got to see people from different walks of life, different religions and cultures showing up, paying their respects, praying in their own way. And it was deeply beautiful for me. And I realized that I had been playing small. I realized that I was afraid of judgment, that I was so afraid of what you were going to think about me, that I was playing small and that I was robbing the world of my light. My favorite word is enthusiasm. And enthusiasm comes from antetheos or entheos, and it means the God within. And if you were to radiate that God within, if you were to radiate your light, everything in your life falls into place. That which is meant for you comes to you. The people that should be in your life show up because they can see you, almost like a lighthouse. But most of us, we walk around wearing a mask, and that mask is our persona. And it says, who do I need to be for you to love me? Who do I need to be enough? Who do I need to be validated, to be normal, to be part of the group? And the problem with that is when you walk around your whole life wearing a mask, you don't even know you. You just know something doesn't feel right. And the people that you think love you, they don't love you. They love the mask. They love who you're pretending to be. So when you wear the mask, even when you win, you lose. And so in that moment, I took the mask off. In that moment, I said, you know, I had 2 cousins that passed away in those 3 years while I was taking care of my dad. One was 20 and one was 21. And if you asked either guy when they were 18, tell me about your life and what your plans are, I promise you neither one thought I'd be dead. before 22. And from that place, I don't say that to be, mellow and, bad. I share that from this place of respectfully, wake up, you're alive. You've got people in your life that really matter to you. Make sure they know. You've got time right now. You won't always. Make it count. And from this place, life blossomed for me after that experience, and my whole demeanor shifted towards every moment. And I value people so much, and definitely so much more than I intentionally used to. And so that is, again, my heartfelt recommendation for you with this first idea of perspective. Number 2 is the idea of mastering your day. I break this down into 3 categories. The first I call genius work. The second I call time blocking. And the third I'll get to in a moment. And if you're taking notes, this part is going to be useful for you. And so I'll start with time blocking. Some people might be familiar with it, and if some of you aren't, imagine, let's say you have 8 hours, just to keep it simple. You have an 8-hour workday, and each is a 60-minute block. So you've got 8 60-minute blocks. You get to decide what you want to do with each of those blocks, and you can be intentional with it. And the way I share it with my clients is, if you have 60 minutes, you set an intention at the beginning. What would I love to accomplish during this hour? What would really be meaningful for me? What would move the needle forward? And then from that place, you set the intention, you remove distraction, which I'm going to get to in a second, and then you do the work. But you have a timer set for about 45 to 50 minutes. At the end of that timer, you take a minute or two to reflect. How did I do? How was that hour? Did I get done everything that I wanted to get done? If you did, awesome. And if you didn't, celebrate what you did. And then you might decide to move it into the second block, or maybe later on if you have some free time. And then you take a legitimate 10-minute or so break. What I mean by that is, you don't go from sitting on your computer doing work to your break is checking email. A 10-minute break might be, go outside, get some fresh air, do some stretches, get some water, use the restroom, something that completely shifts your body and shifts your mind. That will refresh you so much, and you will show up to the next time block more effective, more efficient, and your ability to get stuff done really goes through the roof. Now, when you combine it with genius work, what does that mean? It means no distraction. Same idea I shared with you at the beginning of this presentation today. When you've got your phone out, when you've got your email going, even though you're not looking at it, it's taking away from your focus, especially if it's beeping and buzzing and it's pulling you in different directions. It's taking you 3 hours to do something that you probably could do in 45 minutes if you were hyper-focused on it. And so what would happen if you combine genius work and time blocking, where, let's say the night before, you get clear, what's my to-do list? What needs to happen by tomorrow? And then you assign each one into a time block. And then you get clear on what's the first one. And then for each one, you set your intention, you remove as many distractions as possible. If you're not using the internet, turn it off. If you're not using your phone, airplane mode, get it out of your immediate area so you can really show up. All of the artists and geniuses from throughout time, they all do this. They show up, they focus, they're not distracted. You all deserve that, because you're all geniuses too. In our own way, each of us is, or each of us are. But from that place, combining these two goes a long way. And now you might wonder, well, how do I decide what to do on my to-do list? And this is the third side of it. It's called an Eisenhower matrix. Some of you may be familiar with the concept. And if you're not, please draw this out. So you have the cross with the 4 quadrants. On the top left, you have things that are important and things that are urgent. These are the things that my recommendation is you do them, and you do them now. They are the utmost priority. They have to get done today, or before, sooner, in the next couple hours, let's say. These are your top priorities, and this is what you would schedule the first 2, 3, 5 of your time blocks. This is what matters most. Next are things that are important, but they're not urgent. My recommendation there is to schedule it. Think of it like a computer. If you've got 20 windows open, but they're all minimized, you could tell me, well, I'm not looking at them. But your computer has to use processing power to keep those open. It's slowing down your computer's performance. Think of yourself in the same way. If we live together and I ask you to go get some groceries, and there's 100 things I'd like you to get, but I don't let you have a list, and you have to remember all of them. Here you are trying to hold them in your head, thinking you're going to forget something, you're getting worried about it. And then you run into an old friend, and they tell you, oh, I changed my number. Let me give it to you. 9714. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I can't take that. I've got too many windows open. But what happens when you have a list? When you have a list, there's no pressure. When you have a list, it's the freest thing in the world. You don't have to remember anything. You just have the paper and that's it. Same kind of idea. A lot of us, we look at our schedule and we think, oh, I've got these 30 things to do today. 11 of them though are important, but they're not urgent. They don't have to get done today. They could be done tomorrow, 3 days from now, next week. They just need to get done in a relatively, short-term period. And so if you schedule it, it's the equivalent of closing out that window on your computer, freeing up some space. Because when you know, all right, today's Wednesday, I'm going to do this on Friday at 2 p.m. Now you don't have to think about it at all today. It is done for today. That frees you up. The third, bottom left, is things that are not important, but they are urgent. And when it comes to things that are not important and urgent, if you have a team, this is where you delegate. If it's not important, it's really not worth your time to be doing. But if it is urgent and you have a team, this is where you delegate. If you don't have a team, you do it, but you only do it when the top left quadrant, important and urgent, are all finished. And then on the bottom right, things that are not important and they're also not urgent. And my recommendation here is to really question, do they still belong in your life? Why are these things there? If by your own definition, if they're not important, they're not urgent, kind of sounds like a waste of time. But again, if you can justify that there's something in that quadrant that belongs there, you only do that when quadrant 1 on the top left and quadrant 3 on the bottom left are complete. And the reason why this system I've found to be so valuable, most people treat all 4 of these quadrants equally. So here you are with your to-do list. You tell me I have a client, she tells me I've got this massive to-do list. I've got 35 things to do today. And then when she runs it through this quadrant, she sees she only has 4 things to do today. And she's got 11 things that she scheduled. And then she's got 20 things that don't necessarily need to get done today. And if they didn't get done, but the stuff that mattered most got done, she'd be okay with it. 35 feels frantic. 35, you can't manage that. 4 feels really good. And so when you treat all quadrants equally, that's when you're really busy, you're doing a lot, you're burning the candle on both ends, you're feeling burned out, and you don't have that much to show for it. And so my recommendation would be to put it all together the night before. So let's say tonight for tomorrow, if you want to try it out, get your list. What are all the things I need to do tomorrow? And then maybe there's 5 things, 10, 20, whatever the number, and then put them in the quadrant. Where do they belong? And then open up your time blocks, however many hours you work, give that the appropriate number of blocks, and then put the important and urgent in first, schedule the other ones that are in quadrant 2, then put quadrant 3 wherever you have space if you have time. And if you just did that, set your intention, remove distractions, and go to work, again, I promise you, you will get so much more done in a day than you normally would in a week. And this will help you get the most out of yourself. Number 3 is what I call the magic formula for creating anything that you want. Who would like to hear that? What that is? Does that sound useful to people? And this is something that is very simple. It's not something you haven't heard before. And yet most of the time we don't do it. The magic formula for creating everything that you want is get committed. One of my mentors has a beautiful quote where he says, failure to commit is the high cost of low living. If I could, Rick, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself, could you share with us, in your mind, the difference between being interested and being committed? What that means to you?
Which Rick?
You, yeah. So
Okay.
I didn't see there was more than one. My apologies.
So I would say being interested is kind of like kicking the tires. And so you have a chance to make excuses or, think a little bit more. And being committed is you're not thinking, you're just moving forward, you're 100% all in, and there's no excuses.
Love that, man. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
And so going with that, if we were to think interested is like, yeah, it sounds good. If it's easy and comfortable and I feel up to it in the moment, I might choose to take it on. But there is no commitment in that. And then commitment though might come from, I'm doing that, period. That's going to happen. And think about the language of commitment versus what I call the language of hesitation. And feel free to write that down as a distinction. Hesitation is, maybe, we'll see, I'll try, if I'm lucky, perhaps. But the language of commitment, is absolutely, yes, you can count on me, it's done. So imagine you gave me a call tonight and you said, hey, Jamil, I'm so sorry for the late call. Could you take me to the airport tomorrow morning? And I tell you, well, what time you need to be there? And you say, I need you to be at my house at 6 a.m. And I go, oh, yeah, I'll see how I feel in the morning. And then you get off the phone with me. And maybe your spouse or your friend or someone that lives with you, if anyone, says, so is Jamil taking you to the airport tomorrow? The only thing you can really say is, I don't know. He didn't really give me, he said he'll see how he feels in the morning. That is not helpful. And so now you're gonna have to go call somebody else because you can't count on me in that example. But what would be different if you called me and you said, hey, can you take me to the airport? I say, what time? And you say, you need to be at my house at 6. And I say, I will be there at 5:45. I'll have coffee in the car. I'll have your favorite song blasting, and I'll have the navigation all ready to go. Now you get off the phone and your partner or somebody says, is Jamil taking you to the airport? Yes. Yeah, it's easy, done. Again, that is the difference between being committed and being interested. And how do you create anything in your life that you want? You really get committed. Think about all the things that you want. How can you raise your level of commitment? How can you show up as a stronger version of you? How can you raise your standards? How can you throw yourself into it more? Again, as a spouse and your partner, as a parent, as a leader at work, in all these different areas, it needs more you. That's the secret. You throw more of you into it, the results you're looking for happen. And there's a beautiful short story I want to share with you. I have here, where can you throw your hat over the wall? There's a story that was shared with me by a mentor. When John F. Kennedy was a kid, he went to this school and they had a uniform. And he would walk from home to school and back, and a lot of his friends would do the same. And so what ended up happening was they all had this hat as part of their uniform. And his mom was somebody that always tried to keep his uniform as clean as possible and said, you better not lose that uniform. You better not lose that hat. And like, don't come home if you lost that hat. And so one day they were walking back and there's this giant wall between school and his house. And they always try to climb it. And they called it like the unclimbable wall. It's too difficult. And one of the days his friends dared him to climb the wall. And so what he did was he looked at it, knowing that he hasn't been able to do it thus far, and he took his hat and he threw it over the wall. And by throwing it over the wall, the mindset was, I can't go home without that thing. I have to find a way over this wall. So he starts climbing and he gets to the point on the wall where he normally quits, because this is the part where no one can get past. But now it's like, I have to find a way. And he did. And he got over the wall. In that same way, where have you bought into the story of it's impossible, it's too hard, I can't do it? Because that's the glass ceiling that every time you hit, you give up. But when you throw your hat over the wall, when you elevate your level of commitment, you get what you're looking for. It sounds so simple. I have seen magic happen in my own life, in my clients' life, in people that I know. You increase your level of commitment, it's a world of change that follows. Number 4, powerful question to consider. Where am I creating from? And that'll make more sense in a moment. I have here a picture and a quote from Albert Einstein. And he says, a problem can't be solved with the same level of thinking that created it. Many of you probably heard that. By a show of hands, who here has noticed that when you're frustrated, angry, depressed, sad, and any other emotion like that, fearful, you aren't as resourceful or creative and you have a harder time coming up with results to your problems or solutions to your problems? Yeah, I see some hands, I see some nods. Now the question becomes why? And the reason is because at the level of anger, of frustration, of sadness, of fear, you're operating at the level of the problem. And at the level of the problem, that's not where you find the solution. So then the question becomes, well, what do I do? Like, how do I find the solution? You keep yourself at a high emotional and energetic state to optimize performance. And that energetic state, that's not like you're giddy and you're jumping through the roof. That's not what I mean. And when it comes to how, I love this metaphor. I came up with it a couple of years ago, this idea of a radio. And so to me, you do it by tuning yourself. I always laugh when I see this picture because at one point I absolutely had that exact like navigation system in my car. Some of you might have as well. But in that navigation system, you see the radio here and you see this person is tuned in to 103.4. Now, so if I were to ask you, when you're listening to the radio, what station are you tuned into? And I don't mean the literal number. I mean, like, what station are you tuned into? You're tuned into the one or rather, what station are you listening to? It's the one you're tuned into. Now, when you're tuned into a station, that's what you hear. This person's hearing 103.4. But do all the other radio stations cease to exist because you're not tuned into them? No, they all exist simultaneously. They're all available at the exact same time, and you're free to tune to them whenever you want. But if you don't know that, if you're stuck in one station, here you are driving down this metaphorical highway of life, you're tuned into Misery FM. That's the only station that you've known about because emotions work the same way. And then somebody drives by you on this highway, windows are closed, but they look like they're having the time of their life. And you're confused because you're sitting there going, I don't get it. Like, the station's not that good. Like, why are they so happy? And what you don't realize is they're tuned into maybe Gratitude FM, Joy FM, Love FM. And you always have that available to you. You can shift, you can tune yourself by the questions that you ask yourself. I promise you, you ask yourself, why do I keep messing this up? That's not a great question. And that's going to tune you into this focusing of lack, which will make sense in a moment, because we can always look at life through the lens of deficiency, or what I call the lens of appreciation. If you look through the lens of deficiency, you're looking for what's wrong. You're looking for what's missing, what's bad, what's broken, what's not working, what's not enough. But when you look through the lens of appreciation, you're asking yourself, what is working? What's great? What am I grateful for? What's the lesson or the gift in this hardship? What's the opportunity for me? And please hear me when I say this has nothing to do with positive thinking. This isn't something like you're going to deny like the reality of the situation. This is, what is the state of being that is most serving to me? What is most useful to help me get to where I want to be? Whatever your goals are, your dreams are, whatever solution you're trying to fix, trying to solve that from using the radio metaphor, tuned in to Misery FM, tune into Deficiency FM, you're not going to solve it. Or it's going to take a hell of a lot longer, and it's also not going to be too fun for you. But if you come from this place of, what is working? What's great? Wow, I got a lot in my life that's going well. You're starting to free up these resources. You're like relaxing your nervous system. You're allowing your mind to be more creative, and more creativity will foster the solution that you're looking for. What's the lesson? What's the gift in this hardship? All of a sudden, the hardship doesn't seem that bad. You're still going to deal with it. You're still going to go through it. But it's not just a loss. There's something that you're gaining too. That shifts how you show up. And that emotional state, moment to moment to moment, will dictate your quality of life. And remember that we find what we're looking for. I said before, again, it's not a matter of what's the right or wrong way to think. It's what's useful, what serves you. Remembering that no matter what's happening around us, we always have the power to create an experience of life that's useful for us, because again, all situations are neutral. We give meaning to situations. Good and bad are relative terms. Right and wrong are relative terms. We define the situation, so we create our experience based on the story that we tell ourselves about whatever it is that's happening. If it's raining right now and I'm really angry, and you see me and you say, you seem really upset. Everything okay? Why are you so angry? And I say, because it's raining. And you go, okay. And then you talk to somebody else down the street and they're so happy. And you say, you seem really happy. What's going on with you? And they say, oh, it's raining outside. How is it that both people, one is angry and one is sad, and both are caused by the rain? Because they're not. The rain doesn't have that power. It's water falling from the sky. The emotions are coming from you, not from outside of you. That's why the radio metaphor works, because you tune to it. Because happiness isn't out there, it's in here. Anger is not out there, it's in here. And the moment you recognize that, it's like the person who's loving the rain. Oh, the plants are getting watered. I'm gonna go play in the rain and jump in the puddle. It's gonna be great. My car's getting washed for free. And the person who hates the rain, my day is ruined and I can't go out and it's probably gonna flood. And that's the lens of deficiency. That's what they're gonna focus on. That creates a very different experience. And I use the rain metaphor, but notice that that applies to every single thing in your life. And I go, for the sake of time, I'm going through it a little bit quick. Normally I could spend an hour just talking about that. But that is an aspect, I think, that is truly key. Where are you tuned? Where are you creating from? From deficiency or from appreciation? I call it reality creation. We're doing it all the time by assigning the meaning to the events and circumstances of our lives. Number 5 is there are 2 ways to create your future. You can create your future from the past, or you can create your future from the future. What most people do is this. here's my life as it is right now. And then they look to the past and they say, here is everything that I have done up until this point. Here is what's worked and not worked. Here's what I was capable of in the past and what I wasn't. Here's where I wasn't good enough and where I was. Here's the stories of what people have told me. Oh, you know, Jamil, you're this kind of person. You're that kind of person. You're not good at that. Oh, you're good at that though. That's my story. So here's my past. And what most of us do is we say, well, this is how it's been. So it's probably how it's going to keep being. And so we start living into this future that's really just an echo of the past. And then we keep acting the same way, treating people the same way, making the same kind of decisions. And we wonder why tomorrow isn't that different from yesterday. That is the way most people create their life when we're not conscious of it. But the truth of the matter is, I'll get to that actually in a second. I want to give you the second aspect to this. You can create the future from the future. And what that looks like is, regardless of anything that's happened before a millisecond of right now, this is a new moment. And as I look into the future, maybe I'm journaling it, maybe I'm closing my eyes and I'm visualizing it. What kind of life would I love to live? How would I treat my spouse? How would I lead at work? What kind of money would I be making? How would I be making it? All the decisions, all the ways of being. How would I show up? How would I talk to my kids? How would I talk to my spouse? All that. And then you see it in your mind, and then you come back to this moment and you start being that version of you now. And the reason why this works is because the past and the future don't exist. The past and the future are just concepts. The past only exists in your memory, and the future only exists in your imagination. So when you recognize that there is only this moment, and that this moment will determine what's created in the next moment, then you saying in 5 years, in 10 years, I'll be that way, but I'm going to wait 10 years to be that way, you're never going to be that way. Because if this is where you're at now, and this is where you say you want to be, and you wait, as time goes, the future keeps moving. But if you say, I'm going to be that version of me right now, because you already know the recipe, you already know the way of being, you start making decisions from that place. Immediately, your life changes. A goal, whatever goals you have, a goal is a place to come from. It's not a place to get to. When you make it a place to get to, you're going to be chasing it your whole life. When you make it a place to come from, you're being that version of you now, and that version of you is the only version of you who can actually accomplish the goal. The reason why you don't have it yet is because you're not being the version of you who's capable of creating it. And so right when you internalize that, you start being that version of you. And it is incredible how quickly your life changes. So again, my strong recommendation, create your future from the future. Yesterday and the past are done. Number 6, I call this pressure, friend or foe. Please write this down. Performance equals potential minus interference. Performance equals potential minus interference. I believe each of us has infinite potential, and there are things that get in the way. And so if you want to improve your performance, you limit the interference. Now you might wonder, what's the interference? What do you mean by that? There's a couple different sources. The most common one I have found is increased self-consciousness. When you're thinking about yourself versus thinking about what you're doing. You're in your head, you're not in the moment. And so to give you an example, I remember when I was, the first time I got to do a public talk, and it was in front of about 200 people. And I prepared for it. It was like a 10-minute talk I was going to give. And I prepared for it. I had it down cold. I memorized it. I knew it. I just ran through it. I had this small little apartment in Arizona, my IKEA futon. It was great. And I had that in that moment, I had it down. I just rehearsed it 20 times. I knew it. And then I decided, all right, well, the presentation is tomorrow. Let me have fun with this. I closed my eyes, my IKEA futon's in front of me, and I said, when I open my eyes, I'm going to see 200 people somehow smushed into this IKEA futon, and they're going to be staring at me. And then I'm going to give the presentation. I had just delivered this flawlessly so many times. The moment I opened my eyes, there they were. I start speaking within seconds. Heart starts pounding, palms are sweaty. I forget the whole thing. Now, how does that happen? And it's because your brain doesn't know the difference between what you imagine and what you actually experience. When you think it, it's real for you if you believe it. So here I am in this moment, practically having a heart attack because, oh my God, they're going to judge me. I'm the only person in the room. Nobody's there other than me. And yet I was getting in my own way. So then I got comfortable in that experience. I did it over and over and over again with these imaginary people on the couch. And it got so effortless. I was having a lot of fun. People looking at me from the window probably thought I was crazy. I was pointing at the wall. I was yelling things. I was having a good time. But that fun took all the interference away because I wasn't focusing on me anymore. The focus was somebody here needs to hear something I'm going to share. Somebody here is going to have their life changed. If I mess up, I mess up. I'm human. But I'm going to deliver because it's not about me. Once I got off me, everything changed. In your own life, where are you thinking about yourself? Where are you saying, I hope I don't mess up. I hope I remember all the words. I hope I look a certain way to maintain an image. That's messing you up. When you drop all that and you focus on what am I doing? What's right in front of me? How can I engage myself fully? When you do that, you disappear. It's only the moment. It's only the experience. You're in that flow state and it just works. And so again, that's the number one interference, self-consciousness. Second is the stories you tell yourself. What will it mean about me if that happens? I'm screwed if Y happens. If that happens, my career is over. I'll never bounce back from that. That's a story that you're making up. It's not true. But it will be true for you in your experience if you choose to believe it. But just by choosing to believe that, interference goes through the roof, you're in your head, and you're not able to perform at the levels you really are capable of. Increasing pressure increases tension, and tension I have found to be the enemy of high performance. I did mention that there are times where pressure can be your friend. And essentially it comes down to this. If you're the kind of person who says, I thrive under pressure, I've met a lot of people like that. I used to be a massive procrastinator in my life, and I would tell people that too. But that procrastination didn't serve me because the pressure led to increased tension. Usually I didn't really sleep too well or at all the night before. And there was like some stress and I wasn't feeling good. If you can genuinely, authentically say, oh, I feel wonderful. The pressure brings the best out of me. I show up, I love it. Then great, pressure serves you, use it. But if it's not you, if you're realizing, wow, I am increasing my self-consciousness, I am thinking about me, I am telling myself stories, that pressure is creating tension. And that tension, again, is robbing you of what you could be doing. And again, also being overly hard on yourself, self-critical, judgmental, oh, I messed up. That's not conducive to your performance. Beating yourself up is only slowing you down. So what do? You identify, where can I improve? Take an honest look, where can I improve? Let me make the necessary changes and let me just do the best that I can. If you just did that, your performance, again, really over time goes through the roof. Number 7, I call it performance necessity. It's a term in the positive psychology, high performance space. I found that when you lose your motivation, you've lost connection to why you're doing it, whatever it is that you're doing. Now think about this. There's an emotional and a mental component. I'm gonna flip that. There's a mental and an emotional component to everything that you do. And so you can probably tell me why you do what you do from like a cognitive cerebral space. Oh yeah, it sounds good. You can write it down. It's a good answer on like a question or an essay. But if that emotional drive, if that emotional energy, the why behind it is weak, you're not going to be too motivated. If it was weak, if it was strong, but you lost track of it over time because you got distracted, life kind of beat you down a little bit, and you haven't really reminded yourself of it in a while, that's why you're not experiencing that motivation that you could be. So ask yourself, why does this matter? Why am I doing this? And then this goes into the second part. You can elevate your performance necessity by asking yourself, who's counting on me? Maybe I've got a spouse, maybe I've got kids, maybe I've got friends, whatever the case may be. I've got employees, team members. Who is counting on me to succeed? Who's counting on me to actually follow my word and live into it and do what I said I was going to do? How will their life improve when I succeed? Thinking about others, not ourselves. How will their life improve? And then why do I, quote unquote, have to succeed? Why does it really matter? When you can come from this place, it's absolutely incredible. Abraham Lincoln, he ran for president, but prior to that, he had multiple offices he was running for. And as far as I've heard the story, he lost like 16 different elections. And people said to him, how did you keep that going? Like, why didn't you give up? And he said, I had a friend who believed in me and I didn't have the heart to let him down. That same idea that there are people in your life that if you use them as a tool to hold yourself accountable, that'll drive you, because most of the time we do more for others that we care about than we would for ourselves. And if you were to visualize, imagine a fork in the road. And it's like pre-COVID times, like an IMAX screen on either side in the distance. I haven't seen one of those in a long time. You're on a fork in the road, and on the left, you see an image or a video of the people that matter the most to you, the people that you love more than anything else, the people that you want to be successful for. You want to support them and do great things with them and for them. And this is what happens if you follow what you say you're going to do, if you do the things that matter, what's important and urgent, like in the quadrants, and you see them happy, loved, supported, all this great stuff. On the other side, though, on the right side, the image or the video you see there, that's what happens in your life if you give up, if you quit, if you don't do what you said you were going to do, if you throw in the towel early when you didn't want to. Now, I'm fine with quitting. There's nothing wrong with that. The challenge becomes, did you quit when you still wanted to keep going, but it was just hard? In my mind, that's not cool. But if you quit because it's not in alignment with what you want anymore, that's smart. But keep in mind, I'm going in this direction. That's my goal. That's my dream. I want it. That's the vision I have for my life. But here you are not doing what it takes. And so when you look at that and you see, wow, here's all the people I care about, they're going to be negatively impacted by my actions if I keep choosing to be this way. Now from that space, you're at that fork in the road. Every time you ask yourself, what should I do? Imagine those two roads and pick the one that's the life that you'd like to create. Number 8, I call the cure for overwhelm. The question to ask yourself is, how am I spending my energy? For many of us, it's this version of us on the left. And I want you to imagine that you have 100 points of energy. And there's 10 arrows here, and that represents each point. And from this space, you've got 10 points going into each of them. And so you're really spreading yourself thin. You're doing a lot, and you're getting a lot done, but you're not getting a lot of progress. You don't have a lot to show for it, and you're getting frustrated. And it's because you're spreading yourself too thin. On the right, though, what happens if you took all 100 points and you put it into one thing at a time? That's the cure to overwhelm. The cure to overwhelm is one thing at a time, because you only ever have one thing to do. The only thing you ever have to do is the thing that's right in front of you. Many of us are trying to multitask. That's a myth. Yeah, you might be able to have a phone call while you're walking outside, but you can't do brain surgery at the same time as you're trying to learn a new language and have a conversation. Like, that doesn't work. You can't focus on more than one thing at a time. And many of us, we get distracted, the phone, the email, all these different things, and it pulls us away from what we want to do. If you do one thing at a time, 10 times, I promise you, you will get so much more done. You'll be more effective and efficient than if you try to do 10 things at once. Again, ask yourself, how am I spending my energy? And is that serving me? Number 9 is focus on today. This is a picture of a past client of mine, amazing guy. He is still the American Taekwondo world champion, and his name is Steve. And Steve had this beautiful goal and a vision for his future where he said, after I retire, this is what I want to create. He told me, I want to live on this gorgeous island in the Caribbean. I want to own a vacation home in the West Coast of the US. I want to have a fun and adventure-filled career that I can start that'll add a lot of joy to my experience of life in this next chapter. And I want to have a passionate and loving relationship with my wife. And some of you might say, I want all that too. And some of you might say, well, I have my own version of that. And I said earlier, just before this, focus on today is this 9th principle. And so this idea is all of these goals that Steve has and all of these goals that you have, they're not going to happen overnight. Commit to today and commit to winning the day. Now, what does that mean? It means you get really clear. What's the macro? What's the vision? What's the goal, the dream? Like, what's the big picture? But then you come down, what's the micro? What's the action I can take in this moment? What's the thing that if I get that done today, I made some substantial, meaningful progress towards what I want? If you just win the day while keeping in mind what the big picture is, and you keep moving in that direction, course correcting when you get off track, you'll get there and it'll be fantastic for you. I find that most of us, though, unfortunately, we get so focused on the big picture and the vision that we get discouraged, because it's like a mountain it's like you're trying to climb Everest and you're at sea level and you're looking up and you're going, I'm so far away. You feel like you're so far away, you're not there yet, and eventually it can get discouraging. But if you just focus on winning the day, keep in mind where you're going, but come back to right now. Win the day. If you just did that, again, it makes a huge difference. And the final principle, I call it the fundamentals, and this is where I take kind of the coach hat and the doctor hat and put them both on. There's some health stuff here, because I found that in order for leaders, high performers, and people in general to get the most out of themselves, their energy, their business, their relationships, their focus, all these things, there's some things with your body that need to happen. And if any of this you want to try on, run it by your healthcare professional just to make sure it's okay with you. Most of it though is pretty safe. Every day, commit to the basics. Number one, hydrate. Actually drink water. Drinking half your body weight in ounces is usually what the recommendations are. That's barring any underlying health conditions, kidney problems, things like that. If you think it'd be a problem for you, run it by your doctor. If you're sweating, it's hot outside, you're exercising, get some more, get some electrolytes, things like that. They go a long way. Sleep. Everyone's different, but about that 7 to 9 hour range seems to be that sweet spot. And we're human beings, we have a circadian rhythm. It's a rhythm around the day, circa around the day. And when you have that rhythm lined up where you wake up and go to sleep around the same time, your cognitive function is so much better. And they've got studies to back up. When you're dehydrated and you're sleeping less than 6 hours a night, you operate at a level that's equivalent to being functionally drunk. So how many of you are driving and working on your business and being with your family and doing the things that you consider the most important things, they matter the most, and you're actually functionally drunk while you're doing it? Like, you're handicapping yourself if you're not doing these things. Number 3 is nutrition. There is no one way to eat. I've found so many variety of ways, everyone's different, but in general, I like this simple quote: eat real food, mostly plants, not too much. You want to add in some quality meat, you want to add in some good fats, awesome. Listen to your body. You eat certain foods, you get gas, you get bloated, you get brain fog, you don't feel right. That's a sign that that food is not meant for you. You eat certain foods and your arthritis flares up, that food is not meant for you. Stop drinking your sugar. The sodas and the juices, cutting those out, again, goes a long way. Cutting out the ultra processed foods, the vegetable oils. And if you want to really improve your sleep, stop eating 3 or 4 hours before bed. Again, these are simple and powerful, and they can be easy if they're implemented and become habit. Move your body throughout the day, put some muscle mass on if you can by resistance training, stretch, get outside, fresh air, sunlight. A little simple hack that I found to be really useful, whether it's prayer, meditation, slow down. Most of us are running around going way too quickly. I tell my clients, slow down to speed up. When you slow down, in this example I have here, 4-6 and 6-8. What that means is if you were to close your eyes and breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds, and then breathe out through your nose for 6 seconds, because the exhalation is longer than the inhalation, you're triggering your nervous system to relax. Decreases your stress, decreases your tension, increases your performance. If you find 4, and do that for 5 minutes, let's say. If you find 4 to 6 is easy, then do 6 to 8, 6 in, 8 out. That by itself for 5 minutes is such a game changer when it comes to performance and well-being. Have fun. How many of us remember fun here? So I hear people say, I'm too busy for fun. All the research is clear. When you play, when you're enjoying yourself, you learn better, you function better, you perform better. You being stressed out and trying to burn yourself out because I'm working and it's got to be serious, that doesn't help you. Try to have fun. Whatever, your relationships, cultivate them, build them. Remember the perspective, the story I shared with my dad and how that could apply to you. And whatever your spiritual practice, if you have one, deepen it. Whatever helps you connect, do that more. And as we wrap up here, I wanted to share with you a couple ways that I can keep giving you some value. One is if you like videos, podcasts, content, you can take a picture of this, or I can just, I'll put it in the chat as well. And this is just where you find 400 to 500 videos, blogs, short things that can be really powerful for you. I have a book here that I wrote that you can get the ebook copy for free on the website. It's called 20 Steps to Your Next Breakthrough. Just a way to help go from stuck to momentum. If you're feeling that, you're feeling stuck, you want to get moving, you want some quick results, I think this could serve you. There's an audiobook version as well for a couple bucks. And I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to have a conversation with me, real simple on the call, we get clear on what is it you really want, what's getting in the way, and we create a plan to help you move forward. And then if we decide we want to do that together, beautiful. And if not, maybe I can point you in the right direction. And so with every decision, you recreate yourself. You can have anything you want, but you actually have to want it enough to do something about it. The price to creating your new life is giving up your old one. And so figure out what it is that you want, get really clear. Get some help if you think it would be useful for you to help you get there faster. Take massive, consistent action, keep course correcting until you get there. And I want to be the first to welcome you to this next chapter of your life, because you're not the same person you were an hour ago. From this moment forward, whatever wasn't working for you, let's change it. Let's do something about it, because the rest of your life starts right now. Thank you all so much. I'm going to put a few links in the chat that could be useful. I'm going to put my Zoom link because I know we're about to hit time. If anyone has any questions, wants to talk, wants to debrief, I'd love to share that with you. And I'll also put the link to the book or any of the things I just talked about. So there's that. Here's the Zoom link, just so we can pull that up.
Dr. Jamil, thank you so much. This has been an amazing presentation. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much. I can't say enough, great words of how much value you provide to our community. And we're very, very grateful for that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alina. Quick thing. I know it's 8 p.m. Do we
Yeah.
have a minute or two, or do we have to cut it here?
I have a hard stop at 8:15, so I want to give a chance to some folks to ask questions now.
Beautiful.
And
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your contact information. So folks, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Jamil. I know some of you may have in the past, and he's always open to connecting and helping folks, but feel free to unmute yourself, or I'll check the chat. I don't know if anyone posted any questions. I don't see any. So just unmute yourself and ask questions now while we have about 15 minutes.
Yeah, and keep in mind, it could be a question, or it might just be something that you took from this that you'd love to share, and maybe an insight that you had might help somebody else here as well. And so if there's something that's stood out to you, it's on your heart, I'd love to hear that. I'm sure we all would. And if you have a question, yeah, I'd love to help anyway.
LS raised hand. I'm sorry, I don't know the name.
It's Luciani. How are you?
Hi, Luciani. Oh, how are you?
I logged in with a different account today. Well, first of all, I have to tell you, I've been very big into self-development, and I'm very impressed with Dr. Jamil. I mean, you hit every note. So thank you so much for your words of wisdom and feedback. And thank you for putting that together, Alina. I have a question for you because I own a luxury real estate company. And I'm building it. I've been building it for 2 years, and we're growing a lot. And work-life balance is something that I've struggled with for a long, long time, but it seems to be getting worse now. And I'm here with my daughter, and she wants me to spend time with her, and it's really hard. And she's so happy. I was like, listen, she's like, mommy, I want your attention. I said, no. I said, I'm listening because mommy's going to learn how to have more work-life balance with Dr. Jamil right now. So any advice, because there's not enough hours in the day. Mm-hmm. And I have 1,000,001 things to do.
It's like she's always working, and I'm like, oh, come on, I want to spend time with you. She's like, I can't. And then I break down. I'm like, oh, I just want to spend time with you.
I know. So you definitely hit a chord with the story with your dad today.
Yeah.
Because I definitely don't want to regret it. But anyway, any feedback? Because, I feel like everything I'm doing is really for her, right? For her to have a great future. And it's critical because I'm in the beginning of my business. Mm-hmm. And if I don't do it now, I still try to set up about an hour with her every day.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, but wait, I'm only good enough for 1 hour of your time. But anyway, any feedback will be amazing.
Yeah. And can you tell me your name, please? So Lucia, and then what's your daughter's name?
My name is Luciani, and this is my
Bianca.
Bianca. She's 4.
Yeah. And so keep in mind that there's a whole situation here, right? That I would probably, to give you the best answer, I would need to learn more. And if you want to have a conversation about that, I'd be happy to do that. An answer that comes to mind off the top of my head: there's quality and there's quantity. They both matter, but keep in mind that, especially for Bianca, keep this in mind. There are times where we have 10 hours with somebody, but they're so distracted in those 10 hours that we don't really feel present with them. They're on their phone half the time. They keep looking at it. They're on the phone. They're texting people. Like, they're not with us. Someone could be sitting on the couch right next to you. Like right now, you two are like inches away. You could be right next to somebody, but emotionally, mentally feel like you're 1,000,000 miles apart.
Yeah, that's feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's the quality side of it. Now, the quality would be, let's say I really only had an hour. If I had an hour that I could spend with you, and in that hour, I absolutely gave my undivided attention, focus, presence, and we had a beautiful experience, would it be great to have 10 of those hours? Yeah. And at different chapters of our life, that's possible. And depending on each of our situations, mom might have work. You might have extracurricular activities or school things or friend things or something that's taking, let's say, more of your time. Maybe not right now, maybe you do, maybe you will in a year. And my point being, as our life changes, the amount of time we're able to invest shifts. And so all I'd like to share from the get-go is just, how can we increase the quality of the time that we're spending together, where there's more presence, there's more attention in that moment, where if you're with me, I want you to feel seen, heard, loved, appreciated, acknowledged, all those wonderful things. And I'd love to connect on that deep level. And in that same way, that's my invitation to all of you. Give that as a gift to every single person in your life. And then when you can get more of that, awesome. But notice that I could send a 10-second video message to somebody that could make their whole day. It's not a matter of it had to be a 10-minute video. That 10 seconds, hey, I was thinking about you and a big smile came on my face. I wanted to let you know I love you, I appreciate you, you mean the world to me. And every time I get to talk to you, it really makes my day. Are you free this week to speak? You get a message like that, it doesn't matter how long it was. It's like this beautiful experience that you feel. And so I would start there just by increasing the presence and the quality of the time. And then again, Luciana, if you'd like to talk and really find a way to schedule a day where you could get more of that time, I'd love to do that as well. Is that helpful?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Jamil. Guys, anyone else?
Yeah, Dr. Jamil, hi, it's Matt. Thank you for
Hey, Matt.
thank you for the presentation. The stories were like particularly really impactful. I enjoy the stories driving home some of the points. So I appreciate you sharing those. One of the strategies that really struck out to me was the time blocking, and that's something, especially with kind of different initiatives going on in life, you know, potentially a W-2 job and other things, kids and family. That strategy really struck out to me. Do you have any, I guess, tools that you use to do that, or is it as simple as just kind of the night before blocking out your Apple Calendar, or do you use something different, or I guess, how do you kind of go about that process?
So usually when I do it, I do old school, I do pen and paper, but you could do Apple Calendar, Google Calendar. It could be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be whatever you want it to be. There's no wrong way to do it. And it's not even like doing it's the right way to do it. It's more, is it possible that it would work for you? Is it possible that it would serve you? Is it possible that it could help you, you know, create a day that you would love to live? I tell people sometimes, I have my calendar right here, and it came to me like 2-3 months ago. I love this like visual. When you look at a calendar, and let's say here I've got like 30 blocks ish, and from that space, there's all these lines that divide, you know, the boxes. It's almost as if the calendar is a prison, and those are prison bars. And most of us, we live in the prison bars. We're like a slave to our calendar. Our calendar is like, oh, I have to do that on Tuesday. I've got to do that on Thursday. Oh, that sucks. Saturday shot, all that kind of stuff. But what would happen if we intentionally and deliberately created our week? What would happen if you say, you know, something that would really recharge my batteries is like, let's say, getting a massage. And you go, all right, today's Wednesday. When's the next time I could do that? Friday at 2, I could do that. And all of a sudden it's scheduled, you do it. Now you got something to look forward to. That's happening. And then you decide, all right, you know, I've got some work to do. I put it in the 4 quadrants, and I actually create a day and a week and a month and a year eventually that was my own creation. It was deliberate. Like my calendar serves me. I don't serve my calendar. And so I think that little flip is really useful. Now I know your question was basically what my tools are. I really just use pen and paper personally, but did that answer that question, or is there something deeper than that?
Yeah, no, I think that's helpful. Pen and paper is I was thinking, should I get a whiteboard or keep it digital? And that's just ways, I guess, that's just executing the practice that you described. So
yeah,
that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, keeping in mind that it's whatever would be most conducive and easy for you and your lifestyle. Some people want to put it on their phone because they don't have to carry around the paper, and the phone's in their pocket, let's say, all the time, and they can just look at it and that's it. The paper, you might not want to fold that and put it with you. And in that same way, a whiteboard's great, but what if you like step out for a while and you didn't take a picture of it and then you don't remember what was on there? And so there's all these ways that it can work. It's just what would be most useful, you know, for you in your lifestyle. And as you said earlier, you know, you got the W-2, big things happening, maybe a different job, different business, real estate, all this kind of stuff. Just this idea that When people say, I don't have enough time in the day, there's that old Stephen Covey quote, there's never enough time to do everything, but there's always enough time to do the most important things. And then like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about the ideas that maybe you have a job that you go like 7 in the morning or earlier until like 6 at night. And maybe you have a family and maybe you've got all the stuff, but you probably have like an hour. You might have 2, you might have 3, you might have to stay up late, but you've got some time that you could use and not watch Netflix and not do the other thing. And not like, if whatever is important to you and your situation is going to be unique. And just like I said to Luciana and Bianca, at different times in our life, the requirements on our time is going to be different, right? And so right now, maybe you only have 45 minutes that you can put into it, but that's way better than 0, because over the course of a week, you're going to put in 3 or 4 hours and you can make some meaningful progress there. After 10 days, you put in 30 to 40 hours. That's a work week for a lot of people. And your dream will really start to come to fruition. And over time, you can put more time into that and less time into the W-2 and, you know, things of that nature. It's just like what I said about win the day. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, but the time's going to pass anyway. So if you know this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do, this is the goal, the vision, the dream. Let's say it takes 5 years. Let's say it takes 10 years. Well, you know, God willing, you'll be here 5, 10 years from now. Where are you going to be? Are you going to be living the dream, or are you going to have, you gave up 10 years earlier and so you're doing a job you don't like? And so it's just every day, what can I do today to move myself forward? And to me, that's like how we manage our time in that ultimate sense. That useful, Matthew? Cool.
Matt, if it makes it easier for you, I use the good old iPhone to block my calendar. And it does wonders. Like Dr. Jamil said, you can carry it with you all the time. Most of us don't leave our houses without iPhones or
Yeah.
cell phones anymore. So that helps in general if you block time, especially what works for me. I can tell if you block the same time every single week or every single month, if it's happening on a periodic basis. Let's say, I don't know, you play tennis or you play golf every Monday at 6 o'clock. So if the time is blocked, you know, you're not gonna go shopping or do anything else. You're gonna go play tennis or golf at that time.
Yeah.
That works real well. Dr. Jamil, again, thank you very much. Guys, the presentation is recorded, so everyone will get the recording. Just give me a day or so. If you haven't grabbed Dr. Jamil contact, please grab it from the chat. I do have a hard stop. I do have the next call at 8:15, so I have to wrap it up. But thank you very much again.
Just 2 seconds before we close. Should I jump on my Zoom? Does anyone else have any questions or wants to talk about anything? Or do you all feel complete? Awesome. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone. Have a great night. Take care.
Thank you, Alina. Thank you, Jamil.
Take care, Rick. Talk to you soon.